Before the foundations of the world were set, before time flowed as we know it, there was only divine order, perfect, unbroken, and eternal. From the breath of the Creator came light, and with it the first beings, angels. They were countless, majestic, radiant beyond comprehension. They did not age, did not hunger, did not question. Their purpose was singular, to serve the Almighty and uphold the fabric of creation. Among them were the seraphim, whose voices shook the heavens with songs of glory, the cherubim, guardians of sacred knowledge, and the watchers, a group apart. The watchers were appointed by God Himself to observe the earth and its inhabitants. They were to watch, to guide gently, but never to intervene. Their station was one of honor and of immense burden, for among men chaos reigned. Early humanity was fragile, vulnerable to nature, to fear, and to the unknown, and the watchers looked upon them and began to feel not detachment, but empathy. What began as compassion soon deepened into fascination, and fascination turned to desire. From their vantage in the heavens, the watchers saw the beauty of the daughters of men. Unlike the celestial order of heaven, mortal life was unpredictable, raw, vivid. The women of earth, though finite, possessed a beauty that stirred something long dormant in the hearts of these eternal beings. Among the watchers, one stood above the rest, Semyaza, a leader among angels, revered for his wisdom and strength. But he too was moved by what he saw. The temptation was not fleeting. It grew with every sunrise, with every prayer whispered by those unaware they were being watched. Eventually, Semyaza could resist no longer. He convened the others atop Mount Hermon, a peak that pierced the clouds. There, in the shadow of that sacred summit, he spoke. "Let us descend to earth. Let us take wives among them and share in their lives. But let us bind ourselves with an oath. For if I go alone, I shall surely bear all punishment. But united, we share our fate." The oath was made. 200 angels bound by will and desire descended to earth. Their arrival was not with war or fire, but with mystery. They cloaked themselves in beauty, in splendor, and mankind welcomed them as gods. The watchers took wives, lived among men, and from these unions came children, the Nephilim. These offspring were giants in every sense, massive in size, but also in hunger, in ambition, in violence. They ruled over humans as tyrants, consuming the land, its beasts, and eventually its people. The cries of humanity reached heaven. But that was not all. The watchers had begun teaching forbidden knowledge. They revealed to men the secrets of metalworking, forging weapons for war. They taught women enchantments, how to use plants for potions, how to summon spirits. They taught signs of the stars, the course of the moon, and the names of demons. Civilization advanced swiftly, but the soul of mankind darkened. Innocence was lost. Bloodshed spread. The earth itself trembled beneath the weight of corruption. The Creator, seeing His creation in ruin, summoned the 4 archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. Each was given a task. Michael was to bind Semyaza and his followers. Raphael was to imprison Azazel, one of the most corrupt of the watchers, in utter darkness. Gabriel was to destroy the Nephilim, and Uriel was to warn Noah of the coming deluge. The Nephilim were slain, their bodies destroyed, but their spirits lingered, restless, twisted. These would become the unclean spirits roaming the earth. The watchers were chained, cast into the depths of the earth, to be held until the day of final judgment. The flood came, a torrent that washed away the stains of their rebellion. But the memory did not die. The book of Enoch, written by Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, recorded all that was seen and known. It was hidden, preserved by the faithful, but rejected by the powerful. The church, fearing its truths, cast it out of canon. It became forbidden. Yet the book remains, and it tells us that angels, though divine, are not beyond choice, that free will exists even in heaven, that knowledge once given cannot be undone. The watchers fell not out of hatred, but love, misguided, dangerous, but love nonetheless. Their fall warns us that even the brightest beings can be consumed by desire, and their children, the Nephilim, remind us that power without restraint leads to ruin. The book of Enoch is not just a story, it is a warning. It is a glimpse into a world where heaven's order was broken and chaos followed. What else lies hidden in forgotten books, in ancient scrolls buried beneath the sands of time? What truths have been silenced by kings and priests? Perhaps the fall of the Watchers is not unique. Perhaps others have fallen and walk among us still. The world after the flood was silent. The cries of the Nephilim, the rage of the Watchers, the corruption of mankind, all swept away beneath waters that reached the highest mountains. Only Noah and those with him remained. But though the earth was cleansed, the memory of what had happened lingered. The spirits of the Nephilim, disembodied and wrathful, were cursed to wander the world. They became known as evil spirits, demons, seeking rest, but finding none. They whispered in the shadows, haunted the dreams of men, and stirred violence in hearts that once sought peace. The Watchers, meanwhile, remained imprisoned. Deep beneath the mountains, beneath stone and flame, bound in chains of divine fire, they waited. Some, like Azazel, were blamed for all sin, for all corruption, for teaching mankind the weapons of war and the art of vanity. The punishment of Azazel was unique. His name was to be remembered as the father of ruin. But even in chains, the Watchers were not silent. Their cries reached heaven, and they pleaded with Enoch, the man who walked with God, to intercede. Enoch, in visions, ascended to the heavens, guided by angels. He stood before the Almighty and heard the judgment. There would be no pardon. The Watchers were to remain bound until the end of days. Their fate was sealed. Enoch wept for them, but he understood. Order had been broken, and its restoration required sacrifice. And yet the knowledge they gave to mankind could not be taken back. Men remembered how to forge iron and bronze, how to read the stars, how to summon and bind, how to charm and destroy. Civilization rebuilt itself, but with shadows in its foundation. Great kingdoms rose, Babel, Egypt, Uruk, each bearing traces of forbidden knowledge. Priests spoke in tongues that echoed the Watchers' teachings. Kings ruled with weapons forged from heavenly secrets. The world moved forward, but always beneath the eye of judgment. The book of Enoch spoke of things yet to come, of a day when the chains would break, when the imprisoned would rise, and when mankind would again face the wrath of what had once fallen from heaven. But many refused to believe. The book was declared heresy, apocryphal, too dangerous for common ears. It was buried, lost, hidden in desert caves and guarded by those who knew its truth. Centuries passed. Empires fell. Religions rose and warred, but the tale of the Watchers endured. Whispered by mystics, echoed in dreams, feared by those who saw too much. For even now, some say the Nephilim walk among us, not as giants but as shadows, bloodlines, remnants of that ancient union. Some claim the rulers of the earth are their descendants. That power
wealth, and dominion are their inheritance, that wars, empires, and revolutions are but echoes of that first rebellion. The watchers may be bound, but their influence endures, and the book of Enoch remains as a testimony that heaven was once touched by desire, that angels once chose love over obedience, and that the consequences of that choice still shape our world. Perhaps the most haunting truth is this, that the fall of the watchers was not evil in intent, but in consequence. They sought love, knowledge, and freedom, but their actions brought death, corruption, and eternal punishment. The line between light and darkness is not always clear. The fall was not a single moment, but a slow descent, a choice, a pact, a touch, a child. And from that descent came a storm that nearly ended the world. What else lies hidden in forgotten texts? What other stories have been erased, deemed too dangerous for us to know? The book of Enoch is not just about angels and giants. It is about us, about the cost of knowledge, the danger of desire, and the fragile balance between order and chaos. For if angels can fall, what does that say about man?
Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. We continue.
But the story does not end in chains or in flood. The book of Enoch speaks of a time beyond, a time when the watchers would rise again, not in freedom, but in judgment. Enoch was shown visions of the end, a future where the sky would crack, the stars fall, and the earth tremble beneath the weight of divine wrath. He saw thrones set in place, and the Ancient of Days seated upon his throne of glory. Before him stood thousands upon thousands, angels without number, witnessing the final reckoning. And there, brought forth in chains, were the watchers, their eyes hollow, their wings broken, their light dimmed, but not gone. They were judged, not for love, not for desire, but for what their actions had wrought, for the suffering of mankind, for the chaos unleashed, for the knowledge that had unbalanced creation. Each was named. Each was cast into the abyss, not to sleep, but to exist in torment, conscious of all they had lost. And their children, the spirits of the Nephilim, were also summoned, to be bound forever in darkness, far from the realms of the living. But Enoch saw more. He saw mankind, in the distant future, once again walking the path of the watchers. He saw men reaching beyond their bounds, seeking immortality, forbidden knowledge, power beyond comprehension. He saw the rise of false kings, the corruption of temples, the worship of idols born from the dreams of demons. He saw the earth weeping, the oceans rising, the sun darkened, and the moon turned to blood. He saw war, not of nations, but of dimensions, heaven against earth, light against light, shadow against shadow. The spirits of the Nephilim would rise again, wearing new faces, wielding old lies. They would promise salvation, but bring chains. They would speak of freedom, but deliver ruin. And many would follow, forgetting the ancient warnings, blinded by desire, just as the watchers once were. But even in the midst of despair, Enoch saw hope. A new heaven, a new earth, born not of power but of balance, a remnant of mankind purified through fire, standing firm against the storm, and above them a throne, not distant but near, the presence of the divine once more dwelling with creation. The fall of the watchers was not the end, but a chapter, a wound that could be healed, a lesson that could be learned. But only if mankind remembered, only if the book was read, its warnings heeded, its truth embraced. And so the book of Enoch was hidden, preserved not by power but by faith, passed from hand to hand, guarded in caves, whispered in secret. Its words survived the rise and fall of empires, the burning of libraries, the silence of centuries. And now, in the time of awakening, it speaks again, not to condemn, but to reveal, not to curse, but to warn. For the story of the Watchers is not just about angels, it is about the danger of unchecked desire, the peril of forbidden knowledge, and the thin line between freedom and destruction. It is about us and the choices we make. For in every heart lies a watcher, in every soul the potential to rise or fall. The question is, will we remember their story or repeat it? But what if the Watchers never truly left? What if their legacy, their blood, and their knowledge still flow unseen in our world, shaping the fate of mankind from the shadows? For centuries, whispers have persisted, of ancient bloodlines that carry the mark of those fallen angels, hidden rulers who pull the strings behind thrones and markets, who hold power not by mere chance but by design woven through millennia. These are the descendants of the Nephilim. They no longer tower as giants of flesh and bone, but they command immense influence and control. They walk among us as kings, merchants, politicians, and unseen architects of history. Their power is subtle, yet absolute. They manipulate economies, incite wars, and mold beliefs. At the core of their dominion lies the forbidden knowledge once given by the Watchers. Secrets of the heavens, mastery over the elements, command over minds, and the technology to bend reality itself. Symbols and signs, echoes of ancient pacts, appear repeatedly throughout history and culture. The all-seeing eye, pyramids piercing the sky, cryptic seals hidden in plain sight. These emblems are the remnants of their covenant. Secret societies claiming enlightenment and divine wisdom trace their origins back to those ancient fallen ones. They promise progress, transcendence, and the ascension to godhood. But beneath these grand illusions lurks manipulation and control. The erosion of free will, the slow submission of humanity to forces unseen, is the true design behind their schemes. The world today, with its sprawling networks, surveillance, and pervasive technology, seems to be a new stage for an old drama, the eternal struggle between freedom and domination, light and shadow. The rapid advancements of our age blur the boundaries between mortal and divine. Biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and genetic engineering have pushed mankind to the edge of godlike creation. Efforts to achieve immortality, to manipulate the very fabric of life, echo the forbidden knowledge the Watchers once bestowed. The Nephilim no longer wield swords or destroy cities with brute force. Their weapons are ideas, data, influence, and the manipulation of perception. Through vast networks of control, financial markets, media empires, political systems, they shape the collective will of humanity. Their hunger remains insatiable, the desire to surpass the Creator, to seize ultimate power, and to reign supreme over the world and spirit alike. The Book of Enoch warned of this resurgence. It foretold that the spirits of the Nephilim would never rest, that their thirst for dominion would return in new forms, and that mankind, having forgotten the ancient warnings, would welcome them with open arms, deceived by false promises of salvation and progress. The ancient cycle is repeating, yet many remain blind to its signs. But the story does not end in despair. Embedded within this grim prophecy lies a choice. The same choice that confronted the Watchers and their children confronts us now. The choice between obedience and pride, humility and ambition, wisdom and reckless desire, light and darkness. Every fall begins with a yearning, the yearning to know more, to become more, to transcend boundaries. The Watchers fell because they sought to love, to live as men, to break free from divine constraints. Their children, the Nephilim, fell because they desired to rule, to dominate. Humanity now stands on the precipice of that very same choice. Will we learn from the past, rise above temptation, and restore balance? Or will we succumb to the same hubris and repeat the ancient downfall? The chains that once bound the Watchers remain, but the question persists: who truly remains bound? Is it only the fallen angels beneath the earth, or are we all bound by our own desires, fears, and choices? The book of Enoch closes not with condemnation, but with a solemn warning, a voice echoing from the depths of time, calling out to all who listen. Remember, choose wisely. Not all who shine bear light, and not all who fall are lost beyond redemption. In this final reckoning, the future of mankind hangs in the balance. The knowledge and power once forbidden are now at our fingertips. The tools to create or destroy, to heal or harm, to liberate or enslave, all within our reach. It is up to us to decide whether we will use these gifts to rebuild a world of harmony or to ignite a new cycle of chaos. The story of the Watchers is ultimately a mirror held up to humanity, reflecting our deepest hopes and darkest fears. It reminds us that divine power carries responsibility, and freedom comes with consequences. As the world hurtles forward, awash in information and technology, the ancient truths of the Watchers beckon us to remember the past. Their tale is a warning etched into the fabric of time, that the desire for power without wisdom leads to destruction, that knowledge without restraint can unravel the very soul of creation. But it is also a call to hope, a call to embrace humility, to seek balance, and to forge a future where light and shadow coexist in harmony. The book of Enoch remains a beacon in the darkness, an ancient testament to the eternal struggle within and around us. It whispers that every soul has the power to choose to rise or to fall, and that perhaps the greatest battle is not fought in the heavens or on the earth, but within the hearts of men. The Watchers fell, but humanity still stands. The question is, what will we become?
Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please support the channel with a like, comment, and subscribe. More untold stories are coming.